This is the project that we were able to work on. It's called African American Life in the Arkansas Delta through the lens of Roger Lane Johnson.
Welcome to Thought Talk, Positivity in Motion. Hosted by best-selling author, speaker, and coach C. Ray Collins.
Communication is still a very important key, and making it positive is something that we don't do enough of.
C. Ray visits with members of our communities and leaders of local businesses on how they share a positive message during difficult and good times. And now, here's C. Ray.
Welcome to Thought Talk, Positivity in Motion. And the day before I introduce my guest, I'd like to mention my new book that's out now. You can find it on all the online outlets or Beyond Publishing or on my website. It's titled Thought Talk, and it's about communicating with the whole body. That's the mind, spirit, and your subconscious. So if you get an opportunity to pick it up, it's for everybody. It'll help you live a positive life. When you read it, give me a review. I appreciate that. Today I have a special guest. The name is Troy Gardner. He's owner and operator of TG for Photography, and he gives a lot to the community. And Troy, I appreciate you being here today.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. So to me, people that takes photos, a photographer, you're building memories, and you're also giving a lot of times a lot of joy and happiness in people's lives. So tell us a little bit about your company, tell us a little bit about you, and we'll go from there.
Great. Well, just a little bit about myself. Once again, my name is Troy Gardner. I am the owner of TG Photography Studio, based out of Fort Worth, Texas. I started doing photography about about 20 years ago. I have a wife. We've been married for 10 years, and I have 2 children. Mm-hmm. In terms of photography, I first started doing photography in 2001. I actually had an opportunity to go study over in Russia. So I studied abroad, and it totally opened up my eyes in the view of photography. I was able to capture quite a few photos in Russia. And when I got back, it was no doubt that this is something that I need to do. So That's a little bit about myself.
So I know that you have a degree in education, but you also you went into photography, and you have some accreditation with that as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Professional Photographers Association of America, and of course, I attend one of the largest photography workshops that occur every year. It's Texas School of Professional Photographers. Any photographer here will be very familiar with the Texas School. It's a major workshop where you do have exhibitions. They do a lot of education and various things for the community, as well as educating new photographers and current photographers on the process.
So yeah, I know you do photography. I know you do some video, and do you do other things like photos of places? Do you what else do you do with your photography?
Good question. There's a lot of different areas of photography that I do. I mainly focus a lot right now. I'm doing a lot on families and seniors, but it varies. I started off doing sports photography, which is something that I really enjoy. I did sports probably for a good 7 to 8 years before I transitioned, and then I started doing event photography, which is a totally different area that I also enjoy. Photojournalism, photography education. I've worked with kids. I've done workshops. So many different areas of photography that you can go into, and I've kind of had a chance to do a little bit of all. One thing I have not done, I haven't done any photography where any drone photography. So that's something that I would like to maybe
the
possibly.
next step into
Exactly.
your profession there. Yeah. So photojournalism, explain that a little bit.
Good question. Photojournalism. Well, journalism, is a very interesting because it allows you to really dig deep into the subject or the area that you're actually going to study. You're exposed to a lot. You get to travel, you get to meet people, and you really get to dig into the specific topics, whether it's social action or politics or music or whatever you decide you may want to go into. And I've had a chance to do quite a bit. Photojournalism is something that I started doing in terms of something that I did in college. Working with the yearbook staff, you were able to go in and take different stories. For example, your book, you're doing a topic on the topic entitled Thought Talk, promoting positive things every day. You get to explore those different types of things when you're doing photojournalism.
Okay. So that kind of leads into the next thing. So do you have any memorable photos that you've taken or memorable projects that you've done that would be interesting or something that you cherish?
One thing that I cherish, I did work on a project with this famous photographer out of my hometown. I'm originally from Helena, Arkansas, which is a part of what they call the Arkansas Delta. And I had a chance to work with the children of Roger Lane Johnson. And the people in the Delta, of course, know who Roger Lane Johnson is because he captured a lot of things that happened in the early 1960s and 70s. And he was able to capture like the Chitlin Circuit, back when you had artists like B.B. King and Count Basie and Ella Fitzgerald and all those people that would come to those towns. And what they would do back then is they would all travel together on a bus and they would go on tours and they would perform, and he was able to capture those moments. And this is the project that we were able to work on. It's called African American Life in the Arkansas Delta through the lens of Roger Lane Johnson. So that was another one of those photojournalism projects that we were able to do. We were able to write a grant and go into his studio, which still exists today, is run by his son Steve Johnson. And we were able to go in and develop the negatives and just look at all of the work that was never published.
Oh, wow.
And we were able to come out with a catalog of his photographs.
Yeah.
And his son Steve, which is also a photographer, travels even to this day. He's traveled to museums like the DuSable. He's been in New York at various museums with his traveling exhibit. So I was happy to be a part of that.
So how many photos? Probably thousands?
Thousands.
Thousands of photos.
And they're still developing photos.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Man, that's something else. Of course, this show is all about positivity, positive things, and all this.
Absolutely.
You know, I know you're a public servant, but you're also involved in several organizations and things that you do in the community. Let's talk about that just a little bit.
Great. I'm a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. I joined in 1999 in college, and of course, with my fraternity, you know, a lot of fraternities, once you go into the fraternity life, you stop once college is over. Well, the fraternity that I'm involved in, it's a lifelong journey. So, three principal focuses are brotherhood, scholarship, and service. And through the fraternity, we have various programs. One program that I was able to be pretty active in was the Sigma Beta Club, which focuses on social action, teenage pregnancy, professional development for youth as they come up. So it focuses on different things to build young men as they grow up into the world.
Given to the community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm also active in my church. Well, we recently just joined St. John's Church, so my wife is active, and I'm active with the video ministry.
You also
Well,
do some youth football, right?
Yes, I'm a youth football coach with North Texas Predators. My son plays football. My daughter's a cheerleader, so I coach one of the levels
Oh,
of
okay.
sports. Right now, of course, we're not playing anything with Corona, but hopefully we'll be back out there in the spring.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So during this pandemic, I assume it's probably affected your business some. Have you still been doing some weddings or things of this nature during this time?
Various events. I haven't done any weddings, of course, because of the large groups. I have done a lot of personal photo shoots. That business really didn't stop. Well, it stopped for a short time, probably about 3 months, and then it picked back up. But I haven't done any large events since Corona. So yeah, it absolutely has affected business in terms of event photography.
So let's say that I come to you and I want to do a wedding event.
Okay.
Okay. So what's the process? How do you know how many photos to take? Which photos to take? How you work all that out?
Interesting question. One thing I like to do is I like to have what you call a consultation. I'll meet with the bride or whatever party it may be, if it is a bride or whatever. I'll have a consultation, and through my consultation, we develop a vision in terms of what the expectations are from my particular client. And once I talk with the client and decide what I would like to do, I go into what I call brainstorming as a photographer. And it's weird because I take a day, maybe a few hours, and I just go through this whole session of things that I want to capture and I envision. And I kind of plan them on a board. And I kind of put myself in the position of where I may be. For example, if it's a wedding, I typically go to the venue first. I look at the lighting. I look at potential things that could happen at that particular event. And once I go there, once I brainstorm and come up with my ideas, it can give me an idea of the pictures that I want to take. And I make sure it's aligned with the vision of my particular client. And that's kind of how that works.
Yeah. So you talk about sports photography, and so I'm one of these guys. I always wonder, how did this guy catch this shot? Because he's up midair, he's just got his fingers on the ball. How do you capture that moment?
Man, sports photography is a really tough area because you may capture thousands, well, not thousands, but maybe hundreds, several hundreds of pictures because you're shooting so many frames per second. So when you're shooting with a big lens and a very fast shutter, you can capture tons of photos. And most of the time, if you're catching action and you're following the sport, a lot of the times you get those nice shots. So that's kind of how that works. But
kind of like trying to capture lightning.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you just keep snapping and
you just keep snapping. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I've always liked great photos, and I've always liked interested in seeing photo books and things of this nature. But I know very little about
and one good thing about sports photography is you have the important thing about sports photography is having access. Right. Once you get the credentials to kind of go where you need to go, you can get the photos. A lot of the good photographers that have been around have the right credentials to get in those places where they can get the tight shots.
Right.
So that's very critical as well for anybody that wants to go into sports photography. Make sure you link up with a credible organization or group, and make sure you have where you can get those credentials to where you can put yourself in those places where you can take the good photos. Yeah. Because you have a lot of sports photographers, but a lot of the good ones are able to get on the field. For example, if you're doing a football game and able to go in and take those photographs. Where they can get kind of close to where they need to be.
Right. So, Troy, I know you take great photos. I've used you in the past, and I've recommended you to other people. So, tell me how somebody would contact you if they was interested in getting some kind of photo shoot.
Absolutely. There's various ways. I have my website, which is TG, that's TG, the letters TG, Photography Studio.com, as well as Instagram is TG Photo Studio, and also my Facebook page is just Troy Gardner or TG Photography Studio on Facebook. So those are the three main platforms that I use in terms of putting myself out there.
Photos, building memories, giving people happiness, that's all
Absolutely.
a positive thing. You're involved in the community, very positive. And I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
It's interesting professional that you chose, and we'll try to do this again sometime.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.